Okay, so we took a look at the engine after we replaced this motor mount down here, and we still saw some shifting. We definitely had a bad motor mount. No doubt that we replaced that, but I was still hearing this clunking when we take our foot off the brake, so we still have something that's amiss. And then as I was looking down here, I noticed what you might have a little tough time seeing down there is the control arm. The bushing in that control arm is way off center, meaning that center bushing has almost certainly completely collapsed. So now on this car, the bushings for the control arm cannot be replaced individually. You have to replace the entire control arm. So we've got a control arm, and in the next part of this video, the next video in what I was an unintentional series, we're going to have a part 2. I don't normally do part 2s. We're going to replace that control arm. Okay, we've got the thing on the lift. It's all elevated. We've got it locked up. So we're going to take off that wheel. We're going to take off a castle nut and the cotter pin under the castle nut, break loose the old ball joint, and then we're going to bust these 2 nuts, one here and one over there, and pull that bad thing out and get the new one in. I went through. Okay, we've got the tire off. We got the tire off. This is the castle nut that we're going after, and there should be a cotter pin in there somewhere we need to pull out. We'll pull that guy out, and then we'll go after that bolt right there, and this bolt right here, and then pull this whole assembly out and replace it. The cotter pin on this castellated nut is on the opposite side, where it's bent over, so I'm going to have to either figure out a way to reach in there on the blind side, or then just break it off and then try to pull it through on this side. That's going to be a little tricky, but we'll figure out a way to get it out. Okay, I don't think there's any way you can see this, but sure enough, where I had the camera positioned was exactly where the cotter pin was lined up where I couldn't get to it. So let's see, this way. Good grief, that thing was barely on. That's already coming loose. That was not torqued to any factory spec. With a little bit of crowbar persuasion, we finally broke this guy loose, but we've still got to get it loose enough where we can rotate it out of position and off of the joint here. So let's see if we can go ahead and pop that loose the rest of the way. And by the way, that castle nut was an 18 millimeter. Oh yeah, we're in good shape. We have got it loose. Yay and hooray. Just have to kind of remember that orientation to help, whoops, move the camera. Just got to remember that orientation when we put it all back together. All right. I'm going to declare that good enough for now, and now we can focus on the other 2 bolts. All we've got to do now is go after this guy on the rear bolt, and then this one back here. Focus. right there, and we'll get this puppy slid out. Okay, so we're going to work on that one first. Okay, trying something different, putting the other ratchet rather than that open end ratcheting wrench. Seeing if we can get more leverage here, but not looking optimistic. There we go. Now we're cooking. Sure enough. Come on, you little turkey. Ah, there. On the bolt on the back end of that mount. Notice here. Notice that it's flared, so when you spin it one direction, it catches on the crossbar and holds it in place, so you don't have to back wrench it. You get it spun, if it spins that direction, that will hold it in place so you can ratchet it the rest of the way out. So I'm going to assume that this bolt is the same way. So we're going to do the same thing, just put our wrench over here and work that puppy loose. More a matter of elbow grease than difficulty. Here's the 18. And here is our big wrench. Now we don't have as much room. We could take off these. There are two fasteners that are just out of shot right here. There are two fasteners for this plastic cowling. There's one right here, and there's one just out of shot over here to the right that I could take out. We could probably pull this out of the way and get my wrench in there a little bit more conveniently. But sometimes these little bolts are real persnickety. Oh, that one's practically loose. And they end up breaking. And I've got a bunch of Toyota clips, but I don't have any GM clips. So I'm going to see if we can get this puppy loose without having to take apart those little cowlings. For 6 months in the salt and snow up in that area, this would not be fun. Yeah, it's just... it's a nuisance and it's a pain, but I don't really have a choice. There we go. out of the control arm. Second bolt out. Ha! All right, folks, so let's back off and review. We now have both of those bolts on both ends of the bushing on the control arm out, and we also have the ball joint loose. Now what I've got to do is pry down the ball joint part, which should be loose, and then we can pull the whole control arm assembly out. And then the reverse will, the reassembly will be the reverse with the new part. So let's get that old control arm out of there. Yeah, there's essentially, just for grins, see this? That's what you call a destroyed front control arm bushing. There was no control arm bushing. It's disintegrated. It's 17 years old. Are we surprised? No. All right. Anyway, that little spasm brought to you courtesy of a little bit of craziness, but we made the right call. We made the right call on the motor mount. We made the right call on the control arm. Ooh. Subtle difference I just noticed. Okay, here's where things go unexpected. We have an unexpected difference. There is a connector that I just noticed that attaches the control arm to this sway bar link. We're going to have to get that guy out, or else this won't come out, and that I did not expect. So that's an unexpected surprise, but we now know it and we'll get it out. I kept wondering why it was fighting, and I realized it can't go any lower because it's locked into place. So, got it. We got it. Tap that thing loose. One each sway bar link, gone, vanquished, cast into the outer darkness. There. And out comes well, I hope I didn't accidentally hit the button and miss the turn off the camera at the moment I got the thing out. The sway bar link came out, and that released the control arm, And this one, this side was not too bad, but this side totally and completely shredded. I mean, it is shot. Bang, dead meat. So now we're just going to put the new one in its place, reassemble it, and we're going to be done. So here is our nice new one, made of almost certainly 100% pure Chinesium. So here is the new end, which now has which actually now has a bushing. Here's the back end, which was okay, and the replacement ball joint. They even provide a Newcastle nut, so they thought of everything. So all we've got to do now is put that guy right there. That guy right in there, and line up the bolts. So stand by while we work a little leverage to get those things in their proper holes. Okay, now the tricky part is going to be to get this nice new full bushing to squeeze into the slot. Again, more of an elbow grease issue than a difficulty issue. We're getting there. There we are. Now we're cooking. No, we're not there yet. Okay. It took some doing, but we had to just align. It was a matter of aligning this part of this bushing with this hole, and it goes straight through. So it was a pain, but we got it. We got it. All right. We're going to go to that guy right there and see if he can't tighten this up for us. Oh, that makes my life so easy. Oh. And we will do the reverse to this guy. Okay, so now we've got those in place. Now we need to reinstall that sway bar link, I would think would be next. Next biggest effort will be to get the bottom part of this ball joint back into the steering knuckle. And that can be its own special segment. Okay, it's been a few minutes. I had to break away. I had to step away. There was no magic trick to getting it. I finally got it in. You can see you may not be able to see the castle nut. It's back up here up at the top. I haven't put it back in yet. It was simply a matter of having enough weight to push against the wheel assembly, to push it in far enough to then let the control arm spindle where the ball joint is to go into the ball joint taper and then go through the top. It's in now. There's no magic trick to it. There's no secret sauce. It's just a matter of having enough weight, beans, leverage, angle, and patience to get it on there. So now we're going to take the new castle nut that the manufacturer provided with the new control arm and put it on there. So let's get that puppy on there. And it just goes on there. We'll get that finger tight, make sure our cotter pin hole lines up, and we're coming down the home stretch. Okay, before we button everything up down, we're going to put that sway bar link back in. This just fits in between those two guys. And then we will get the bolt persuasion device, otherwise known as a hammer. Matter of fact, I'm going to have to move the camera. Top sway bar link has been restored. There we go. All right. So all that now remains is to make sure we've got this castle nut in such that we can line up the cotter pin and tighten those two bolts down, and we're done. So let's get that cotter pin in. And remember, we do not reuse cotter pins. I have ruthlessly and shamelessly borrowed the comment that Rain Man Ray makes on cotter pins. Reusing cotter pins damages my soul. And I think it's words to live by. As we're going to slide this here cotter pin through that there hole. Just as soon as I drop it on the floor at least once, that's a requirement. Try it left-handed. No, that's not going to help any. There we go. Got that cotter pin all bent in, and I'll bend that in from the other side just for good measure. Okay, Castle nut is on. Cotter pin is in, and I am now going to torque the bolts on the control arm, the front and rear bolts, to 117 foot-pounds. Now, what I've done, since the car is on a jack, and I would prefer this to be torqued or under tension as if it were under approximate ride height, I have taken my floor jack and elevated the control arm a little bit to get it closer to ride height. This is not exact, but it's going to be closer than if it's just hanging loose, because then it might tend to be stiff on this side, and I don't want that. This isn't going to be perfect, but it'll be more than adequate, and it will certainly be better than the clanking and slamming that we had before. But 117 foot-pounds is the reference I found for a 2005 Lesabre, and that's what we're going to use. See how this works. Click it. There we go. Make no pretense of being a very strong guy. Freely admit that. Total noodle arms here. Physical strength has never been a strong suit. There. All right. There, done. Okay, we've got the control arm replaced. Think that's good to go. So the last project that we've got to accomplish on this Buick is we're going to replace the downstream O2 sensor.